Oh. Hello. So, my kitchen is a mess right now. I can't even put my sleeves down because they are going to get stained with whatever the fuck is left over here in my kitchen stove. So, let me wipe that down real quick. What the fuck? Hello? Something has been burned onto my stove. Come on. Well, whatever. Okay, I don't know what this is, but we'll... Oh, I can scrape it off. Yummy! Okay, hello. So, it is currently... Why did I think my phone was in there? It is currently 6:15 in the morning. Here's your proof. It is 6:15 in the morning. Can you see that? It is 6:15. Milo. And I can't sleep. I went out tonight, but it was a different kind of night. It was a completely chill night, and I just hung out with friends. I went to a comedy club, and then me and my friend just sat at a bar, and then I came home. But I came home hours ago, and I just can't sleep. I have like so much on my mind. There's just a lot of things to think about, and it's just one of those nights where I can't sleep, and I'm thinking about a lot. So, I'm just gonna film and kind of take you through where I'm at right now. I don't know when I'm gonna go to bed. I don't know what the progress is. I don't know what we're doing right now. But all I know is that I have a robe on, I have my black Uggs on, and I can't sleep. First and foremost, between this and this, my kitchen is a mess and I need to clean it immediately. Whenever I lived in Brighton, I find it so easy to ignore mess. And that's kind of how my apartment got so messy time and time again. And with this apartment, I feel that anytime that there's a mess, I can't do anything unless I clean it. So I don't care what time it is, I need to do that. But first of all, I'm gonna make a tea actually, because then the tea will be ready whenever I'm done. Then we're gonna talk. We'll go from there. I need to retie this. This isn't a striptease, don't worry. It would help if it was on. I think there's been something since I was a child that I like about nighttime and people not being awake and having my own space and having my own time. Whenever I was younger, anytime my family would go to sleep, I would always be like, oh, I'm going to bed too. And then when they would go to bed, even if I didn't have my phone or a laptop or a computer or anything, I would just stay up. And if I didn't have a notebook to write things down in, I would just stay up and think about the next day or think about, you know, the day before or the day that just happened. There was something I really, really, really liked about like the peace and quiet of myself and my own space. And I remember whenever I would know that everyone had gone to bed, I would just love walking around the house. And my tea's almost ready. It's ready. I remember a couple times in particular in a house we used to live in, whenever I knew that all my family had gone to sleep. My brother stayed in a bedroom over here, my parents and my other brother were upstairs. So I was in a bedroom right beside the kitchen, and I used to just walk around the kitchen. And it was so weird because I remember I would always have school the next day, and I knew that my parents would kill me if they knew that I was still awake, but I would just walk around the kitchen table. And it's so weird, but I think about it and then I'm like, I still kind of do that where I know I should be sleeping right now. I know that everyone else is sleeping right now, but I know that when I look out on the street in front of me, there's no one walking around. There's no cars driving about. I say that and I look over here and a bus just drove past, so kind of going against what I just said. I just always appreciated my own space and own time, and for some reason I'm thinking about that a lot today. Maybe we'll get into it, but let's go make the tea first. The irony is not lost that I'm drinking a sleep tea, by the way. This is a stamp from the club, by the way. Before absolutely anything else, I need to sort this table out at least, and then we'll move on to that, but I need this table to be sorted out first. This is the jacket I wore tonight. It is my Madonna tour jacket that I got in London. Yes, I am putting it on over my robe. Is this not a look to you? What do you think? I miss Paris. Okay, this is much better. My Crocs. For the balcony, obviously. Okay, hello. So, being alone, let's talk about it. It's something that I know very well because it's something that I prefer. And it has been something that's been on my mind a lot recently. More specifically, the past week or so. And the reason for that is the more and more I meet new people, and obviously I'm in Manchester, so I'm in a new city. The more and more I meet new people and kind of explore different dynamics, the more I'm finding myself struggling with it. And it's actually a first in my lifetime because I feel that whenever I was younger, I was kind of pushed to, be everyone's friend, make as many friends as possible. I mean, I went to drama school, so obviously there is inherently a desire to know a lot of people. I mean, I used to do shows with, hundreds of people, and we would all make friends, but they were always, short-lived friendships. And I think growing up and having friendships that were always so short kind of bled into my adulthood more than I thought it did. And this sense of kind of only, feeling comfortable and only trusting myself has been something that I didn't realize is so apparent in my life. And again, I think whenever I moved to Brighton, whenever I was 18, I think I was so excited about the opportunity that I would be anyone's friend. And I think that there were I know that there were a lot of people that I became friends with that were not who I should have been friends with. And it's probably one of my biggest, a lot of people that I've met have been my biggest regrets in my entire time living in Brighton and kind of growing up and stuff. But then I also realized that I kind of also needed to be friends with those people to learn certain kinds of things. But whenever I was in Brighton, I was so desperate for the approval of my family that I had done a good job with the move. And to me, that looked like showing them that I had friends. So if I met one friend, I wanted to be friends with all of their friends. I wanted to meet everyone, and I wanted everyone to like me. So I was so nice to everyone. And even when I felt uncomfortable around people, I still pushed past it, and I was their friend, and then I became friends with their friends, and I wanted to impress their friends, so I was nice to their friends. And it started this continuous cycle that in specifically the first year and a half of Brighton, or at least a year and a half chunk of it, I spent it kind of living for the approval of other people and wanting so desperately for everyone to like me, and altering myself in so many different kind of ways to make sure that people felt that I was someone they wanted to be friends with, or that they really liked me, or that I wasn't, a lame person to them or something. I don't know if this sounds stupid, but it's something that I'm currently going through the motions of feeling. And I think that whenever I grew out of that in Brighton, I came to this realization that the less people I know, the more fulfilled I feel. And I'd always heard adults specifically say this to me in my life, and I always thought, oh, what a bunch of bullshit. Like, oh, the less people you know, okay, you think you're so great, this kind of thing. And I really started to hone in on that whenever I left Brighton. And so coming to a new place, I'm kind of finding myself back in that rotation of trying to be everyone's best friend because, I don't know anyone here. So I'm trying to find friends. So I'm finding myself, talking to people that I feel don't like me, or talking to people that I know that we're not supposed to be friends, but like that kind of situation. And I have to say, after, I've been in Manchester 2 months now. After 2 months, I'm kind of burnt out of it. And it's kind of scaring me how quickly I got burnt out of doing that in Manchester versus Brighton. But I feel that being 21 now instead of being 18, I kind of know what I want a little bit more in life. And I think that I spent so much time. Maybe I left home a little bit too early, that this has still trickled down, but I feel that I left very early, so I became very dependent on myself, whether that was going, moving to a different country or, traveling around the world. I mean, going to America, on my own when I was 18 for the first time, or, these different kind of things, right? Traveling Europe on my own whenever I was 18, like these amazing opportunities that I'm so lucky to have. But I always did them alone, always by choice I did them alone. So I'm so used to spending time alone. And the main thing is I, past the age of 18, have not lived or spent significant amount of time with other people in my space. And Manchester has been the first period of my life where there are constantly people in my apartment. In Brighton, I was so protective of my space. I barely had my friends over, and actually the first time most, if not all, of my friends saw my apartment was my going away party, the last day that I stayed there, because I was so protective. So I told myself whenever I moved to Manchester that I wasn't going to be like that. And so I've constantly had my friends staying over. My second bedroom has been used like a rotation door. I mean, I've been having friends staying. I think I've had friends staying in that bedroom probably every weekend or every second weekend for the last 2 months that I've been in this apartment. I've loved hosting for my friends, and I've loved having them here, and I get a kick out of, having my apartment clean and feeling proud of my space, and that was something I never felt in Brighton. So I've stuck to my word in Manchester that I was going to be like that. And there have been a lot more experiences in Manchester versus Brighton, specifically dating. In Brighton, I didn't really date. I need to get my tea, and then we'll continue this, because we can go deep with this. By the way, as I speak to you right now, my 2 girls are just resting, and I don't know how I got so lucky to have 2 amazing girls who have seen me through so much. Listen, if you get me at 6:38 in the morning and I have not slept yet, this is where my mind is at. I'm either writing this down in a journal or I'm talking to you about it. But let me show you my view right now as I'm currently talking to you. Ow, that is hot. Fuck me. Hi, beautiful girls. You sleeping, Bonnie? Oh, no, sorry. I didn't mean to wake you up. Go back to sleep. And they've returned to base. So anyway, back to the conversation. In Brighton, I didn't date at all. And I actually was quite embarrassed about the fact that I didn't date in Brighton. And I don't know why now, and it makes me feel very sad that at 18 years old, I felt embarrassed by the fact that I hadn't had a first kiss, or I hadn't been in a relationship, or any of these things. And I'm trying to remember when my first kiss was. I honestly think it was when I was 19 years old. I can't even remember who it was with. I do remember who it was with. I was 18. I was 18. I remember who it was. It was in Portsmouth, was my first kiss. Lovely guy. Still like him to this day. Not like that, but I still like him to this day. Nice guy. He's from same area that I am. Ironic that we had our first kiss in England and not Ireland. But anyway, I remember being so embarrassed about the fact that I hadn't had all these firsts that my brothers had. And I remember whenever I moved to Brighton, I got exposed in the best way possible to so many different kinds of people who had had way more experiences when it came to love than I had. And it was something that I struggled with, and it was something that I internalized for a long time. And I specifically remember, like, when I had turned 19, I spent a lot of 19 feeling super embarrassed and ashamed. And I kind of looked inwards a lot, kind of blaming myself as to why I hadn't had, XYZ experience. And I actually was so much later than all of my friends in a lot of things, past kissing. It took way more years past 18 for any of that to happen. And I was super embarrassed about that. And I kind of look back on that now and I feel sad that I felt that way. So I always kind of internalize that whenever I think about things now. I'm like, well, in a couple of years, I'm going to think back on this and feel like that. So I feel like I have a pretty good attitude about it. So yeah, whenever I was in Brighton, I spent a lot of time on my own, living alone, didn't really go on dates, met my friends halfway through my time there, enjoyed my company with them. But I was pretty much so a lone soldier for a little bit in Brighton, and it came with its pros and cons. That's why I started traveling, honestly, was because I felt so lonely in Brighton, and I told myself I would rather feel lonely, traveling around the world. And if someone doesn't want to be my friend, well, they speak French, so like we couldn't have a, proper back and forth conversation. It was this weird justification of like, oh, if I'm in Brighton and, people aren't speaking to me, they hate me. If I'm in Paris and people aren't speaking to me, there's a language barrier. It was some weird fucking whatever. So that's why I traveled a lot. And I'm so glad I did, especially traveling young, because I got a lot of independence and experience. And I'm so grateful my parents allowed me to have that freedom. Now, I was over the age of 18, so ironically, I could do whatever the fuck I wanted. Love you, mom and dad, but like over the age of 18, you know what I mean? Like, but no, like they allowed me the freedom. They allowed both of my brothers the freedom to, travel and do what my brothers had been to Japan, and my other brother has traveled all around Europe, and, we've done these things alone. Like my brother solo traveled around Asia, and my other one, like I said, solo traveled around Europe. And, so they've allowed us that. So fast forward to Manchester, along with allowing my friends to stay over in my apartment, I have, for the first time in my life, started dating. And it's been really, really, really scary. And I don't feel that people talk about how scary dating is. Like, I don't think I've ever consumed a piece of media that has, from someone my age, that has talked about this. And I don't even think age actually has anything to do with it, because, you can start dating at any age. But I feel that at 21 years old, I'm actually only starting the process of going on dates and doing these different things and stuff. And I don't know how I feel with it. I'm going to be honest. It's not what I thought it was going to be. And I feel that because I spent so much time alone, I start to feel very protective over my own space whenever I spend too much time with anyone. Like, if I spend too much time with my mom and dad, I start to feel a little bit, like I need my own space because I've spent so much time without them. If I, spend too much time with my brothers, I need a moment away, like, because I've spent so much time away from them. My friends, like, whatever. That's why trips are always, like a designated amount of time, and then you always want to come home at the end of it. I need a sip of this tea. Oh, it's like the perfect temperature. It's going to be like the perfect temperature for the next 2 minutes, so I'm going to, like, enjoy this while I talk to you. But I find one of the main things that has came from spending so much of my adulthood so far, from 18, 19, 20, 21, that's 4 years. In 4 years, I spent very much so dependent on me, myself, and and I kind of spent every hour with myself, sometimes only myself, and I feel that whenever I introduce someone in a dating way, I start to feel a little bit protective of myself, And no, I think it's always good to feel protective, to an extent whenever you're going into dating to kind of protect, yourself. But I've been feeling myself protecting myself so much when it comes to dating that I'm almost just feeling like I'm not ready, which is so weird because I feel that I spent the last 4 years wishing for this moment of going on dates and dating. But if I'm going to be completely transparent with you, within the last 2 months, I have been talking to 3 guys, and not all at the same time, and all 3 of them have been super casual, going on dates here and there, like, earlier on, I was on a date. I feel that in 4 years of kind of wishing for something, or here's where I want to end up, or this is my goal, and look at all my friends that are in relationships, I've realized that there are some things that actually I want to work on in myself before I get there. And I felt like I had worked on everything, but you don't experience it until you experience it. And I've realized how actually guarded I've been of myself. I think one of my main things is, number one, I'm so comfortable in my own space, and I'm so comfortable with my own company. And is that a blessing and a curse? A blessing because I enjoy it, and a curse because I feel like there's an expiry for me whenever I hang out with people. That's like a personal thing where I like need to go back to my own self. Like I'm very, 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 whenever I'm out, I love, love, love people. I actually love a lot of people. I love being with a lot of people. I love the challenge of being put in a room with, you could put me in a room with hundreds of people. My dream would be to mingle with as many people as possible. But at a certain hour after that, I switch off and I need to come home and I need to sit with myself, sometimes in silence, sometimes with music, sometimes just like the dogs on my lap, something. And I've realized that, whenever you're going on dates and, all these different things, that kind of comes into play in a way that I never thought of before. And number 2, because I've spent so much time alone, I feel very protective of myself. Now, I don't even think that that's a bad thing. I think it's kind of nice that I feel very protective of myself. Now, I do think that there's a fault in it. I think I do feel that I'm a person with a lot of flaws. I can appreciate that there are things that I very much so like about myself, but I can also appreciate that I have a lot of flaws. And I think one of my main flaws is that I am so protective of myself. Like, obviously you can say that that is a nice thing, but I think that is a flaw in the case of how I go about it. And what I mean by how I... Is the sun rising yet? No. What time is it? 6:49. I think the way that it is a flaw for me is because I'm so protective of myself, I struggle to allow myself to open up to new people, whether it is dating, friendships, family, whatever, because I don't want to get hurt. And I can be a very negative person. I feel that I will always look to what is the negative outcome in a situation before I look at the positive, because I want to be ready for the negative outcome. So, one thing I've been thinking whenever I have been, seeing these people and just going on casual dates is, okay, this is not going to work out. If we got together, we would eventually break up, and I don't know if I want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with the breakup. So I'm not going to want to go on any further dates because I don't want to get hurt by you, me, or the situation, right? Now, I think that there's also something that comes into play because I've spent so much time alone. I know I'm saying this a lot, that what happens whenever... I actually don't know where I was going with that. Okay, I just abruptly stopped talking. I'm going to be honest. I got tired of hearing my own voice. It happens. So, So I don't know where I go from here. You know what I mean? I don't know how I can, you know, get myself to open up more, or get myself to like trust more, or, you know, be like a little bit less dependent on myself. I don't know. It's all a part of adulthood, and obviously it's something that is very exciting and, you know, stuff you learn, but it's something that I'm struggling with the concept of, and I don't really have anywhere to go for advice, or I don't even know like what resources, or like if there's a book to read about like growing up or being 21, or I think that there's so many things about adulthood that I have so many questions about that I can't wrap my head around. And I don't know, I think growing up is so complicated, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I always sometimes wish that me and my brothers were closer in age, so that I feel that I could relate to them a little bit more than what I do. My brothers are great, and I love them so much, but there is such a big age gap between us. I mean, my eldest brother's, I think he's almost 30, and then my other one is like mid to late 20s, I think. And I know, I'm awful because I don't... Alexa, what age are you if you're born September 1998? I think that's when he's born.
From datanditch.com. If you were born on September 1st, 1998, you were 25 years and 3 days old.
Okay, he's 25. I think it's either 25 or 26. And then the other one is definitely 30 or about to be 30, like 29 or something. And obviously you could say that, you know, 21 and 25, 26 isn't that big of an age difference, but I think that when it comes to life experiences, it is. And I think that I only really started getting close with my brothers after I left home, which is a shame. I think that all three of us, there's two of them, obviously, that would mean there's three, had very different experiences in life, different paths we went down, whether that was like literally from school to whatever. And it is a shame to me that, like, specifically, like, not my eldest brother, but the one, in the middle child, it's a shame to me because when we were younger, like, all we used to do was fight. And, you know, my mom and dad would call us, like, Tom and Jerry, and we really did, like, beat the shit out of each other. Like, at any opportunity, we used to just fight, and we really didn't like each other as kids. Obviously, we loved each other, but, like, you know, we really didn't get along, and we just always had it out for each other, and it's such a shame because now we're really close, but we don't talk unless something has happened, or Christmas, or something like that, and I don't go to my brothers for advice. And I was talking with someone a couple days ago, actually at a smoker's area, and they were an only child, and they were talking to me about, they were like, I really wish I had, it was a girl, and she was like, I really wish I had an older sister that I could talk to and ask for advice, which is why this conversation is coming into my head. And she was like, what do you have? And I was like, I have two older brothers, and she was like, oh my god, so you must be sorted then, like, it must be so great to, like, have, like, hand-me-down advice. And I was saying to her, I was like, this is the first time I've thought about it, that actually makes me sad, because I don't go to my brothers for advice, and my brothers don't come to me for advice, and, you know, actually, like, me and my brothers don't talk one-on-one, more than, a couple times a year. We have a great relationship, but, like, you live your life and you go on, so, it's sad in a way to me that I almost wish that in my adulthood I was closer with them, or that they lived closer to me, or I could ask them for advice, or, they could come around to my apartment and we could talk or whatever, but I think because we spent so much time apart, and I think because they live their lives, I live my life, I think at the end of the year when you come home for Christmas, you know, you talk about, you know, family memories. You don't, you know what I mean? It's not like what I kind of wish me and my brother's relationship was like. But that's a part of growing up. They're doing their own things. I mean, my eldest brother is, you know, in a relationship, and, you know, I haven't even met his girlfriend, and they've been together for a very, very, very long time, and they're very happy together, and they travel around Europe together and all these different things. And, you know, all of my family have met her except for me, because I live so far away. And, you know, you do feel a disconnect in a way. It's hard not to. Obviously, I try my best to go home. I try my best to travel and stuff. But in moments where I feel that I just wish that I could have someone in my apartment, which kind of goes against the, you know, just being me, myself, and I, it kind of forces you to be me, myself, and I a little bit more, which means that you become more dependent on that. I am so grateful for, you know, my parents, and I talk to my mom and dad on FaceTime. Literally, I talk to my dad on FaceTime probably 4 times a week. I talk to my mom on FaceTime probably 4 times a day. Like, I'm not off the phone with we literally call every single day, multiple times a day, and if we're not on call, we're texting. Like, I have such a close relationship with my parents. My parents really are my best friends. My brothers, I really don't speak to unless we're in the family group chat. And yeah, I look around whenever I was talking to that girl at Smokers, and she was, you know, saying about, you know, I'm an only child, I wish I had, you know, that to go to advice for. And it just kind of made me think about those lost years with my brothers where we could have, especially in the middle child, we could have been getting on more, and we could have been, you know, having, you know, giving each other advice and stuff, but we were so busy being brothers and arguing with each other and stuff that we couldn't see past it. And then whenever we're adults now, we get on so well, but we're not close to each other in the way that we were when we lived in the same house. And that's all what it, you know, comes down to. Me and the middle brother, we went to Berlin. I have a sticker on this UGG and it's pissing me off. We went to Berlin together. I bought us a trip to Berlin. It was always one of his dreams to go to Berlin. So I paid for both of us to go to Berlin 2 years ago or 1 year ago. And we had the best time. It was the first time since living together in our family home that we had spent an extended period of time just together. And we got on so well. Like, it was us, obviously, 2 years ago, so very close in age to what we are now. And we spent every day walking through the streets of Berlin, talking to each other, and it was like adult conversations, adult banter, and it was so nice it felt like we were such grown-ups, and that was so lovely. And it's such a shame that, you know, with the way that life moves, and he moved out and I moved out, that these are kind of the really good years, and we're so far away from each other. So I think because of that as well, I kind of go inwards a lot more as well, because I kind of rely on myself for a lot of, you know, if, like right now, if I'm going through a dilemma, like, I, you know, kind of have to talk to myself. And that was always something that whenever I lived alone, I struggled with the concept, because, like, you only have your own opinion. And whenever my friend Rachel lived with me in Brighton, I loved it so much. Like, I loved nothing more than having a temporary roommate. Because I knew that she was leaving eventually and I could go back to my own space, I loved it. But for the couple weeks or couple months that she stayed with me in Brighton in my apartment, it was so lovely if I had a bad day to come back and talk to someone about it, or, you know, just chat. And I think it was always so good getting a second opinion. So I think that kind of with this new era of meeting new people in a new city, you know, going on dates with people, I'm feeling very overwhelmed. And then at the end of the day, I'm coming home and I'm like not knowing how to like verbalize my opinions. Like, it's like this insane feeling of overwhelm that I don't know how to like process my feelings when it comes to it. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, the sun is rising, which means, why am I not asleep? It's like, okay, I went, to a dinner today that I was invited to, and I met 7 new people. A lot of them I got on with, some of them, we didn't get along with, and then I went on a date. How did I feel about the date? I don't know. So whenever I come back, I'm like, I have this dinner of meeting new people that is building up. I don't know what to do about meeting new people because sometimes it can make me feel very anxious. A date that I don't know how it went. It's a lot in once. And I think that in Brighton, I would have I don't know what I would have done in Brighton with that. I feel that in Brighton, whenever I would feel overwhelmed like that, I would just cry. But I feel that in Manchester, it's not something I want to cry about. It's something that I just want to verbally talk about. And then I feel I've got it off my chest. But it is weird. This is definitely a very, very, very transitional period in my life. And I feel that it is the most transitional period that I have ever gone through. Way more than Brighton. Holy shit, this is not even comparable to how I feel when I moved to Brighton. And I don't even know if that makes sense because I had just moved away from home and stuff. But the move to Manchester versus the move to Brighton, believe it or not, feels so much more transitional, so much more big, so much more whatever than anything else I've ever done in my entire life. And it's incredibly overwhelming. It's incredibly overwhelming, and it's so weird to say this, but it's so hard going through really, really, really overwhelming things and being so far away from your family. But obviously, the overwhelming thing is moving away from your family, so of course you're going to be away from your family, you know what I mean? So, that's where my mind's at. That's all my thoughts. I don't have any more. That is it. Hi, Dolly. Hi, Dolly. Sit. Paw. Oh, you're so clever. Bonnie, sit. Sit. Clever girl.